A freight train passes at a grade crossing and you count the locomotives at the front. 3. Then further back, tucked between a string of tank cars and a row of boxcars, there is another one. Same paint scheme, size, and design as the working units up front, but its exhaust stacks are cold. No heat, sound, and no sign of anything happening inside the engine compartment. Its wheels are turning, but only because the train is pulling it forward. It looks like something went wrong, like a locomotive broke down somewhere on the line and got coupled into this train to get it out of the way. That might not be what is happening at all. What looks like a casualty being nursed home is often something much more deliberate and much more interesting. Let's get into it right here on Small Things. Dead in tow. When a locomotive rides inside a freight train with its engine shut down, railroaders call it dead in tow. The term means exactly what it sounds like. The locomotive is not producing power, not working, just riding. This is not the same as distributed power, where locomotives placed mid-train or at the rear are fully running and actively pulling. Those units are online, connected to the lead cab by radio, and contributing to the movement of the train. A dead-in-tow locomotive is doing none of that. Its engine is cold, its electrical systems are shut down, and it is traveling as cargo. The only things that connect it to the train it is riding in are the couplers at each end and a brake hose running from car to car. The cheapest move on the network. A modern diesel-electric freight locomotive costs somewhere between $1 and $2 million. It is also one of the most geographically specific assets a railroad owns. A locomotive sitting in a yard in Chicago is useless if the railroad needs pulling power in Texas. Moving it there is not optional. The question is how to move it as cheaply as possible. Running a locomotive under its own power across the country is expensive. The engine burns fuel. A crew must be paid. The move occupies a slot on the main line that would otherwise be used by a train carrying freight and generating revenue. Railroaders call this a light engine move, and it is something every operating department tries to avoid. When a freight train is already scheduled to run in the right direction, coupling a locomotive into it dead in tow solves the geography problem at almost no additional cost. The working locomotives burn a little more fuel pulling the extra weight, but that is trivial compared to a dedicated move. This economic logic applies to several different situations, all of which produce the same site at the grade crossing. The most common is simple repositioning. Traffic patterns shift constantly across a continental rail network. A fleet of locomotives that spent the summer hauling intermodal freight in the east may need to be in the Midwest by October for grain harvest. Moving them there means running them dead in tow inside westbound freight trains over several days. When a locomotive breaks down far from a heavy maintenance facility, the railroad faces a choice: send a dedicated crew to run it home or couple it into the next freight train heading that direction. The second option almost always wins. The locomotive rides dead in tow until it reaches the shop. Locomotives also travel when they change hands. Leasing companies maintain large fleets that move between customers as demand shifts. Short-line railroads buy used locomotives from major carriers and need them delivered across the country. When an aging unit needs a full rebuild, a worthwhile investment because it costs roughly half the price of a new locomotive, it has to get to a specialized facility before any work can start. The rebuild shop is never in the same city as the locomotive that needs it. In every case, the answer is the same. Shut it down, couple it in, let the next available freight train carry it there. What has to happen before it can ride? Turning off the engine is not enough. Before a locomotive can be moved dead in tow, a mechanical crew has to prepare it carefully, Because a locomotive with a cold engine is still a machine with active components. The first concern is the traction motors. In a diesel-electric locomotive, the diesel engine drives a generator, which powers electric motors mounted on each axle. Those motors are what actually turn the wheels. When the locomotive starts moving dead in tow, the situation reverses. The wheels turn because the train is pulling them, and those same motors, still connected to the axles, begin spinning inside their housings. A spinning motor generates electricity, and if that electricity has nowhere to go, it will flow back through the motor windings, causing overheating, burnt insulation, and potentially a ruined motor that costs tens of thousands of dollars to replace. The solution is isolation. Before the locomotive is coupled into the train, a crew member operates a valve that mechanically disconnects the traction motors from the rest of the electrical system. The wheels can spin all they want, the motors spin with them, but the circuit is broken, so no damaging current flows anywhere. The second concern is the brakes. The locomotive's own air compressor, which normally supplies the pressure that operates its brakes, is not running. Without a source of air, the brakes cannot function. A 200-ton machine with no working brakes riding inside a freight train is a serious problem. The solution is connection. Every car in a freight train is connected by a continuous brake pipe that carries air from the working locomotives at the front through every car to the rear. A dead locomotive is connected to this pipe through a valve that allows the train's brake system to control the dead unit's brakes, even though its own compressor is cold. The engineer at the front applies the brakes, air pressure drops in the pipe, and the brakes engage on every car and every locomotive in the train, including the silent one. Dead weight that actually helps. The obvious assumption about a locomotive being towed is that it is pure burden, dead weight. The working engines at the front must drag along, consuming fuel for no benefit. On flat ground, this is largely true, and the working locomotives burn slightly more fuel, pulling the extra rolling resistance. On a climb, however, the calculation changes in an unexpected direction. Traction is the limiting factor on a grade, not raw power. Steel wheels on steel rails have limited grip, and when a locomotive pushes its traction motors too hard, the wheels spin rather than drive. The heavier the train, the more weight presses each driven axle into the rail, and more weight on the rail means more grip. A dead locomotive riding behind the working units adds its full 200 tons to the total train weight, and some of that weight sits directly over driven axles on the cars and locomotives around it. This means a locomotive producing 0 horsepower can still physically improve the working locomotive's ability to pull the train uphill, not through power, not through braking, but simply through mass pressing steel against steel. The unit that cannot contribute an ounce of tractive effort is still, paradoxically, making the uphill sections easier for the units that can. Railroaders do not typically plan dead-in-tow movements for their weight benefit. The economics of repositioning drive the decision, but the weight contribution is real, and it means the locomotive in the middle of the train is not quite the pure liability it appears to be from the crossing. The people who make it move. A person who has learned to read freight trains can tell the difference between a working locomotive and a dead one quickly. A running locomotive shows heat haze above the engine compartment, faint exhaust at the stacks, and vibration in the cab body. A dead-in-tow unit shows none of this. Cold stacks, a still cab, no sound from the engine compartment. Only its shape marks it as a locomotive rather than a very large piece of freight. Someone who watches trains regularly develops a habit of checking the middle of a consist for these cold units. It becomes a puzzle. Where did this one come from, and where is it going? A locomotive with faded paint from a different railroad still showing under fresh overcoat suggests a recent ownership transfer. A unit in fresh paint traveling inside a train of battered working power suggests it just left a rebuild facility. A dispatcher at a railroad operations center sees this as a planning problem. When a unit needs to move 500 miles north, they find a freight train already running that direction and assign the locomotive to it, listed on the manifest as cargo alongside the freight cars. Someone at a short line railroad's yard waiting for a locomotive that has been traveling for 3 days inside various freight trains has a different relationship with the arrival. An asset in transit. The next time a freight train passes at a crossing and one of the locomotives in the consist is cold and silent, the sight is worth a second look. That locomotive is not waste. It is not a breakdown being buried in the middle of the train. It is a multi-million-dollar machine being moved to the precise location where it will be put to work, carried there inside a train that was already going that direction, at a cost to the railroad that is close to zero. What looks like dead weight is actually one of the most efficient logistics moves the railroad makes. The engine is off, the asset is in transit, and somewhere ahead, a yard is waiting for it. If this changed the way you look at the next freight train you see, let us know in the comments what you want us to explore next. We might make it our next episode. Thanks for watching. History often hides in the smallest details.